In this video, we're going to share our experience doing a 2-week camping trip in Costa Rica. For this adventure-packed trip, we rented a 4-wheel drive vehicle with a rooftop tent from Nomad America, and we spent 2 weeks camping all over this beautiful country, from the mountains to the beaches. Costa Rica is full of incredible sights, tons of wildlife, and camping was certainly a good way to immerse ourselves in all this country has to offer.
But camping here certainly didn't come without its challenges. So we want to share our tips for doing your own Costa Rica camping trip, how to choose campsites, what to bring, and more. Hi, we're Jake and Emily, the two roaming souls. We're experienced travelers who make helpful guides about the world's best destinations. We've lived and traveled in our camper van in North America for years, so renting a camping rig for our Costa Rica trip just felt like an opportunity we couldn't pass up.
The company we rented from, Nomad America, has a fleet of rad overlanding vehicles for rent. And so this video is partially a review of our experience renting from them, and also just covering more general information about camping in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is known for having some pretty rough roads, especially the further you get from the main highways and cities. So having a 4x4 vehicle with high clearance is very helpful, or sometimes downright essential depending on the road conditions or the destination.
Renting from Nomad America. The specific car we rented is called the Suzuki Jimny, and having rented one once before, we kind of adore these cute but capable little 4-wheel drive cars. But they also have a variety of other 4x4 campers as well. The Jimny is part of the small class, which is the cheapest they offer, but they also have medium and large options with things like the Toyota Hilux, Land Rovers, FJ Cruisers, etc. The bigger rigs offer more space and can even accommodate up to 5 people camping.
And stick around to the end of the video where we do a little deep dive about the pricing. You can research and book rentals right on their website, which has lots of information about their offerings. And we were very impressed with their communication throughout the whole process. But you need to have WhatsApp, since that's primarily the way they communicate with you.
The Nomad America office is located about 20 minutes from the Juan Santa Maria International Airport in San Jose, Costa Rica's capital city, and they provide a free shuttle from the airport, so that transportation is already handled. And once you get to their office, they gave us a thorough demonstration on how everything works. We have camped plenty of times, but rooftop tents were completely new to us, so we were happy their staff took the time to really show us how to set everything up until we felt comfortable.
Nomad America provides nearly everything you need to hit the road. They provide a mattress, blankets, pillows, a camp kitchen setup, and more. So despite being a camping trip, you really don't need to bring that much more besides your normal packing list. One tricky part about the beginning of this trip is getting in early enough so you have time to reach your first campsite before dark. We took a really early flight out of Denver at 5:20 a.m., so with the layover, we could still get to Costa Rica around noon. And something that doesn't really work in your favor is that year-round, the sun always sets between 5 and 6 p.m. So unless you plan on camping around the San Jose area, you really need to get an early start to reach some of the further destinations that might be hours away.
Finding campsites. One of the most important parts of doing a trip like this is figuring out where to camp. The two main options are paid campsites or wild camping. Paid campsites include things like bathrooms, showers, drinking water, trash, and sometimes electrical hookups, a shared kitchen, and other nicer amenities. Whereas wild camping is really just finding a place to park where you won't bother anyone. And of course, there are no amenities of any kind.
And another benefit of paid campgrounds is that there's usually a bit of added security, which is nice to have for keeping you and your belongings safe. Nomad America shared a website called CostaRicaCampsites.com that has a variety of recommended campsites, and you can receive discounts as a Nomad America customer. But honestly, we totally forgot about this nice perk and never asked any of the hosts for a discount. Or you can search for camping on Google Maps, or lastly, we use an app called iOverlander 2, which is a paid app that shares campsites, wild camping, water fill-ups, Wi-Fi, or anything else that might be helpful to travelers. And with the free version of the app, you can still download one country for offline use.
For our trip, we did a combination of the two, but the majority of our nights were at paid spots, with prices that range between $6 to $15 per person per night. So for the two of us, we were spending an additional $12 to $30 per night on camping. We were definitely hoping to save money by doing mostly wild camping, but a number of factors guided us towards more paid options. For starters, wild camping in Costa Rica isn't like what we're used to in the Western US. Instead of sanctioned, dispersed camping areas where you know you're allowed to be, Costa Rica wild camping is more like finding a random spot and hoping nobody cares that you're there.
We used iOverlander to find lots of the wild camping locations, but everything on there is user submitted, so you don't actually know for sure how viable a spot is. Hopefully there are recent positive reviews, but even still, that's not a guarantee of a peaceful night of sleep. Being in a foreign country and camping somewhere without certainty that it's allowed just left us feeling a little uneasy.
And on top of that, various wild camping spots, especially along the coast, had reviewers warning that they got robbed. Some from years ago and some more recently, and we especially travel with lots of expensive camera gear and laptops, and that made us uneasy as well.
So despite seeming like there are lots of wild camping spots, in actuality, we didn't end up finding much wild camping that we felt comfortable with or fit into our itinerary. And lastly, I want to mention that we did end up booking a few nights in hotels along the way, for various reasons. Before the trip, we had planned to get at least one hotel in the middle of the trip as kind of a reset to do laundry and take a proper hot shower. But we also ended up getting 2 more nights in hotels, once because of an insane rainstorm, and another because we just didn't find a campsite that worked for us that night. But one nice thing about Nomad America is that they have a shower and bathrooms at their office, so if you want to freshen up before your flight, that's an option. But I wouldn't blame anyone who wanted to book hotels before and after their rental instead. Our favorite campsite of the whole trip was called Mirador El Castillo e-camping. It's in the La Fortuna Arenal area. It's a very steep and rough road to get up there, but it was one of the most incredible places we have ever camped, and we've lived in a camper van for years.
Where should you go? Costa Rica is full of amazing places to visit with tons of variety, so choosing where you want to go will depend on your interests and how much time you have. Here's a brief overview of the country. Costa Rica has 2 coastlines, the Caribbean side and the Pacific side, and down the interior of the country are a variety of mountain ranges and volcanoes.
The Caribbean side is known for calmer waters, better snorkeling and diving, and a more Caribbean island vibe.
The Pacific side has bigger waves with beach towns that are much more surfing oriented, but some more protected beaches do provide good swimming conditions.
The interior mountains are known for volcanoes, waterfalls, hiking, coffee farms, adventure tours, wildlife, and much more. When it comes to wildlife, the places with the most biodiversity tend to be in the mountainous interior and the central and southern Pacific coast.
And the capital of San Jose is the largest city in Costa Rica, for the more cosmopolitan side of Costa Rica, like architecture, culture, art, and more. Since you're considering a camping trip in Costa Rica, I'm guessing you're probably like us and would rather explore nature than the city.
For our 2-week trip, we landed in San Jose, spent about the first half of our trip in the mountainous interior, and the second half was spent along the central and southern Pacific coast. We first went to La Fortuna for 4 days, then Rio Celeste for 1 day, Monteverde for 3 days, Uvita for 4 days, Dominical for 2 days, and Manuel Antonio for 1 day. So even with 2 weeks, there are entire popular regions of Costa Rica that we didn't see. Places like the Guanacaste province, the Osa Peninsula, and the entire Caribbean side.
We've created or are working on videos about all the destinations we visited, so subscribe to our channel and click the link in the top right to watch our specific destination-based guides. Personally, I think our itinerary was aggressively packed, but mostly because we set pretty ambitious goals to create lots of content for this channel. You can easily travel a little slower for less time spent driving and more leisure time at each destination.
What it's like driving in Costa Rica. Depending on who you ask, you'll get very different answers about what it's like driving Costa Rica, and that's probably because it's all relative to your experience. But overall, I didn't find the driving in Costa Rica to be that intimidating. For starters, driving on the right side of the road is familiar to me, and at least on the primary routes, nothing felt too crazy. Like, lanes were generally painted clearly, there's appropriate stoplights and other safety signage, and more importantly, people were actually typically obeying the traffic rules and customs that I'm used to. The signs are in Spanish, so it's not a bad idea to brush up on these signs if you can't read Spanish. But even without reading, the shapes of the signs should be enough to convey their meaning. The only thing that might be nerve-wracking is the amount of passing in the oncoming lane that locals do, and the high amount of motorbikes that are sometimes hard to keep track of. But the real challenges of driving in Costa Rica are once you get off the primary roads. Generally, the more mountainous the terrain, the more treacherous the roads can be. But again, I've got lots of experience driving mountain roads in a vehicle much bigger and less capable than the Jimny.
You need to stay very alert when driving in Costa Rica. Assume that there could be wildlife, potholes, or rough roads at any moment, and some routes might even have unexpected river crossings. Like for example, the back roads from La Fortuna to Monteverde has one such river crossing, but we didn't take that route. Common sense is to scout any river crossing on foot, and don't cross any river that is showing signs of change or potential flash flooding. Yeah, I know the Nomad America rigs come with engine snorkels, but they instructed us not to cross any river higher than halfway up your tire. So like most vehicle snorkels I've seen, they're really just for show.
The only incident of our trip was very easily avoidable in hindsight. We were in the mountains of Monteverde and foolishly tried to drive up a really steep muddy road in a rainstorm. We were being cheap and trying to avoid paying for camping, and we knew just how steep that road was because we had driven it dry high the night before. But in the rain, we ended up backsliding into a ditch and proceeded to spend the next 20 minutes trying to get unstuck. I do wish our tires weren't quite so worn. I get that everyone's not going to get brand new tires, but personally, I think ours were a little past the replacement tread level, given the purpose of these rentals. But anyway, with how slick the mud was, I'm not sure any tires would have made the difference. But at least with the shovel provided and a small car, we were able to push it out and get downhill safely.
Happy to report we did make it out alive. But we'll see if we make it down the road tomorrow.
Nomad America does include 24/7 free roadside assistance, and they even said that they would send someone to meet us anywhere if something was broken or we had an issue. But one bit of the fine print is that the roadside assistance only applies to places that a regular tow truck can reach. So if you get stuck somewhere like we did, you will be financially responsible for getting the car to an accessible spot if it's not drivable. Hey, if you're finding this video helpful, give us a like to help our channel grow. Thanks.
Drinking water. Conveniently, most tap water in Costa Rica is safe to drink, so the easiest way to refill your water jug along the trip is at campgrounds and gas stations. If you end up paying for campgrounds most nights, then you should have no problem just filling up whenever you need it at campgrounds. We did bring our insulated LifeStraw water bottles just to give us extra peace of mind, but plenty of tourists just drink the tap water as is with no issues.
Food. Nomad America's rigs come with a pretty complete camping kitchen setup, and with the cooler provided, you can purchase groceries and cook many of your own meals to save money along your trip. Personally, we ate out a lot, but mostly because we were creating travel guides for many destinations, which required visiting quite a few restaurants in each place. They also have an optional upgrade to an electric camping refrigerator, but I would guess that most people just stick with the cooler and buy ice about every 2 to 3 days. Even when we had no groceries though, we still kept buying ice just to keep chilling water bottles in the cooler. I don't know about you, but when we're in hot and humid climates, having cold water to drink is practically a must. So again, another reason why having an insulated water bottle is a great addition to the trip. But some other tips about food is to adjust your diet to what is mostly available, like a lot of fruit and fresh coconuts. And we also brought a meal replacement shake like cachava to help fill in the gaps.
Money. The currency in Costa Rica is called colones, but in touristy areas, US dollars are used almost just as much, if not more than colones. And nearly everywhere we went, they accepted credit cards. We did take out some colones from an ATM at the beginning of our trip, which I do recommend having on hand for some smaller purchases in more rural areas or occasional tipping money. But again, I think like 90% of all of our purchases we made with a credit card or paid in advance online.
Gas. Obviously, driving a car all over Costa Rica, you're gonna need to fill up with gas. And at least compared to our home country, the United States, gas is quite expensive in Costa Rica. The cost is generally around 692 colones per liter, which in US dollars is equivalent to $1.37 per liter or $5.19 per gallon. And Nomad America told us the Jimny needs the higher grade, which was called Super. Luckily, all gas stations are full service in Costa Rica, so they told us just to say full Super, and every attendant understood to fill it up with Super.
Internet. When it comes to staying connected, this is definitely the kind of trip where you're going to want cellular data. With all the driving between remote destinations, being able to get directions and look things up on the go is essential. Most restaurants and other attractions we visited had Wi-Fi available, which helps fill in the gaps, but doesn't help you much when you're on the go or in the middle of nowhere. Some campsites had Wi-Fi, but I would say that most didn't. So the thing we used for cellular data for this trip is the Solus 5G, a device that acts as an all-in-one cellular hotspot. It's great because you can connect all your devices to it, and it isn't locked to one specific carrier, so it will always connect to whichever carrier has the best signal. A nice perk when you're constantly on the go. We'll leave a link to the Solus 5G hotspot in the top right corner. But other options are eSIMS, physical SIMs, or roaming with your home cell phone provider, which I would rank in that order. Buying eSIMs from a company like SimLocal, Maya Mobile, or Airlo is a pretty easy and cost-efficient way to get cellular data abroad.
Dry season versus rainy season. This is a very popular discussion topic about Costa Rica. The dry season from November to January has less rain and more sunshine. Or you might be tempted by the cheaper prices and fewer crowds during the rainy season. And Nomad America is no different. They offer a 33% discount during rainy season. But especially when tent camping, rain can be a huge detriment to your overall enjoyment. Our trip took place from April 30th to May 16th, 2025. And May is basically the beginning of rainy season, or really could be described as shoulder season before the true rainy rainy months arrive.
Before our trip, we looked up a 10-day forecast that basically put us into a panic. It showed like 70 to 100% rain and thunderstorms every day. But we learned that weather apps and forecasts are basically useless for Costa Rica. And in actuality, the weather on our trip was nothing like that. Costa Rica has very unpredictable and hyper-localized weather patterns. So it could be dumping rain a few miles away and beautiful sunshine where you are.
Even in rainy season, the weather is still often sunny in the morning, becoming more cloudy as the day goes on, with a good chance of some rain in the afternoon. I would say most of our trip followed that pattern, which gave us enough time to do outdoor activities with decent weather. But we definitely did encounter some rain and thunderstorms. Some just light sprinkles, and some heavy rains and intense thunderstorms. But one benefit of a rooftop tent is that even if the ground is soaked, your tent is elevated off the ground. Overall, since weather is such a big factor when camping, I would recommend doing this trip during the dry season from November to January. Lack of rain and slightly less humidity will make a difference in your overall enjoyment.
Now we want to cover some of the challenging or negative aspects of this trip. Camping in the tropics always seems like a divine idea, until you do it and realize that there are some distinct challenges. For starters, year-round it is just hot and humid.
I've never sweat so much in my life.
Which makes sleeping in a tent without AC quite uncomfortable. Luckily, Emily thrives pretty well in hot weather, but honestly, I think I would have slept half as much if it wasn't for the fan that Nomad America provided. This is the most important thing that they give you, the fan. It allows you to sleep at night. Always keep this thing charged.
This is our oscillating fan. Gotta stay cool somehow.
That was a lifesaver. The only places that offered a little relief from the heat was being in the mountains. Places like Monteverde are at 1,300 meters and actually offered some cooler nights for more comfortable sleeping.
We just got to Monteverde and it's pretty chilly here. Like, we are up here in these mountains. You need layers.
And the other factor about camping in the tropics is bugs. So many bugs. It's pretty easy to keep them out of the tent, but you're just outside a lot. And honestly, we didn't find the mosquitoes to be that bad, but there were also no-see-ums and flies to contend with. But the real terrorizer was the stinging ants. A few times, even at paid campsites, we were parked right on top of stinging ants. And even just one of them is a painful burning sensation. If you're ever not paying attention and get stung by several, it feels like your foot is on fire.
Paid campsite facilities can be pretty gross. Unless it's brand new, there's gonna be dirt, mildew, and bugs, which half the blame could be just contributed to the climate. Hot and moist weather just makes it hard to keep facilities looking pristine. But I think campground hosts could keep up with cleaning slightly better.
We found camping to be a little overpriced compared to cheap accommodation. Like with 2 people, some campsites would cost us $30 per night. And when you're able to find some cheap hotels and Airbnbs for like $45 a night to sleep in a real bed with air conditioning and a private clean bathroom, we just felt that paid campsites were often pretty significantly overpriced.
The last thing that we disliked is that you can never really stop worrying about your stuff being stolen. You know how they always say not to leave valuables in your car at trailheads? Well, that's pretty difficult when you're just traveling in a car camping rig. Jake and I basically just resolved to carrying all of our valuables with us at all times, which definitely gets old after a while, taking a bunch of heavy electronics on every trail to every restaurant and more. And you need to be sure you have ways to keep your stuff dry if you get caught in a rainstorm or crossing rivers and stuff. And we did find what I thought was some pretty clever hiding spots in the Suzuki Jimny. Probably don't want to share them here on the internet, but if you send us a DM on Instagram, we'll share our tips with you.
Also, if you're envisioning this as a surf trip, I don't know how I could really feel that safe leaving everything in the car if I couldn't see it.
Okay, but enough negativity. Here are some of the awesome things about camping in Costa Rica. You will likely see more wildlife since you're just outside more. Many times we were just doing things around camp and all of a sudden we'd see some cool wildlife.
This one might seem a little counterintuitive, but I think tents are actually even better at keeping bugs out than a hotel room. We have stayed at plenty of hotel rooms in the tropics, and bugs seem to find their way in. But if you're good about keeping the tent screen door closed, then the tent can actually be your one safe haven from the bugs.
Cooking your own meals with your own camping kitchen can help save you money.
Since Costa Rica is near the equator, daylight really only varies between 11.5 and 12.5 hours per day. So you really need to capitalize on the daylight. And it's so much easier to get on an early sleep schedule when you're camping. We were waking up at like 5 a.m. with no alarm, which helped us make the most of our sunny mornings.
So consequently, you will probably catch more sunrises and more sunsets.
Ultimately, I do think camping is the most affordable type of accommodation in Costa Rica, except for maybe hostels. But if you had a rental car, then that tips the scale.
And if you're gonna rent a car anyway, then it kinda takes care of both your vehicle and accommodation.
And here are some other tips.
Bring an eye mask and earplugs. You'd be surprised just how loud the bugs are at night, plus the random barking dog or rooster, and there's usually some light at campsites. So earplugs and an eye mask are practically essential for getting a good night rest.
Remember to try to get an early start on your first day, especially if you're flying in that morning.
Many people said that Waze is more accurate than Google or Apple Maps, but we used Google Maps and didn't have any trouble.
It was much cooler in the mountains, especially for sleeping at night. Maybe it was just the time of year, but we thought that the ocean breeze would keep us cool, but the coast was basically the most hot and humid place on the trip.
Nomad America sets you up pretty well for success, but here are some things that we brought or bought that aren't supplied by Nomad America.
A phone mount for the car. Maybe seems insignificant, but driving with GPS directions hands-free is such a game changer.
A travel coffee mug with a closing lid, so you can make coffee and get on with your day, even if that means driving some crazy dirt roads.
Phone and device charger cords of all kinds. This is probably more just because we're content creators, but our rat's nest of device charging between destinations was just comical.
Paper towels, they're just handy to have around camp.
Price breakdown. After our trip, we were curious about the total price breakdown, and I thought it might be interesting to compare the price between this type of trip versus just getting a rental car and hotel rooms.
Keep in mind that pricing for most things in Costa Rica varies a lot between dry season and rainy season. For example, only the first day of our Nomad America rental was in dry season pricing, and the rest of the trip was the discounted rainy season pricing, which is about 33% cheaper. But hotels and rental cars also have pricing that rises and falls similarly with the seasons.
From our comparison, our Nomad America rental was $1,858 with all the added fees, insurances, etc. And from a quick search on Adobe Car Rentals, we found a similar four-wheel drive rental car for around $1,009, with presumably all the required insurances and fees. While we didn't use this company, they have glowing reviews and many people stated that there are no hidden fees, which you will find is the biggest complaint from most other typical rental car companies.
So the cost per day for our Nomad America rig was $116, and the price for a rental car is around $70, which would leave you with about $45 per night to spend on accommodation. But of course, as we mentioned, we often opted to stay at paid campgrounds, which was an additional $6 to $30 per day.
But the bottom line is, the price difference per day between our Nomad America rental plus campsites or a four-wheel drive rental car plus budget accommodation is essentially a wash. So while it's not technically a perfect comparison, we hope this helps you with your planning.
Was it worth it?
I mean, yeah, overall, we had an amazing trip, full of highs and lows. And maybe I'm weird, but there's actually part of me that kind of enjoys when things go wrong. Like, while it may not have been fun in the moment, getting stuck on the side of the road in a rainstorm is a great story that I'll remember forever. Like, I'm not going to tell my grandchildren about the time I sat at a pool for a day and everything was perfect.
And there were so many beautiful highs of our trip as well. We were just blown away by the amount of natural beauty in Costa Rica. But as full-time van lifers with lots of camping experience, I think we were prepared for what this trip brings. We are very comfortable with the challenges of camping, driving sketchy roads, and being okay with not even knowing where we're going to sleep that night.
But from our cost breakdown, just don't go into this trip expecting to save a bunch of money by camping. So I think it's got to be an experience that you truly want to have. And if it is, you will certainly have an adventure to remember forever.
Head over to our website, tworoamingsouls.com, for an even more detailed blog post about renting with Nomad America. And you can find our Costa Rica destination guides here on the screen. Thanks for coming along on another Two Roaming Souls adventure. Subscribe to our channel for more travel and adventure content, and we'll catch you on the next one.